Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. If you enjoy our content, please consider donating and following our socials.
So, I got somebody with me here today. Neri, please introduce yourself.
I'm Neri, first degree at Life Temple and Seminary.
Yay. A subject came up and you wanted to talk about it.
Yes, and the subject is ethics of selling spells online.
All right. What do you like or don't like or...
I don't like the fact that none of it is personal, because there's really no such thing as a one-size-fits-all spell.
No.
And it's energy. Like, if you're putting something negative out into the world, who pays that price? Is it the caster who bought the spell? Is it the person who sold the spell? Is it both?
Well, I guess it really depends on how you look at spells and how they work versus, what in the world we think of as a business world where you have a transaction, X amount of money for this product, and you go home and plug up your vacuum cleaner and it works.
Yeah. Another thing is, how many people really know exactly what they need in life? You might be asking for a spell for just a windfall of money when what you really need is a spell for a new job. And the person who sold you that spell hasn't talked to you about what you really need, doesn't know you at all, doesn't know your energy. So you're out here doing spells that, you don't really need that spell. You need something else and you don't realize it because you haven't spoken to anybody about what you really need.
About what you actually need versus what you want.
Yeah.
All right, because there is a difference between what you need and what you want.
There's definitely a difference between what you need and what you want.
I mean, I've heard of spells that go like this. Woman does a spell to start a new life, and her family leaves her, everybody abandons her, she loses her house, the whole 9 yards, and then she goes to a witch and goes, what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't.
You've got that new life that you wanted.
That new life you wanted. How much of a clean slate do you need?
That's another thing is some of these things, they need to be very specific. And what you're going to get online most of the time is very generic.
Yeah.
And then you have these wild and crazy things that are just taking advantage of people.
Is the problem here that we're seeing, or the problem you have with this, is this because, you've been taught to use magic for in a specific way, in a specific style, to a certain extent?
I think some of it is. The other is that...
I mean, because we more teach that we use spells and stuff to help counsel or do other things besides just cast a spell.
Yeah, but the other thing is I think some of it really is just a means to make money, and the person who's selling the spell doesn't really care about the end result.
No.
I think that's what part of my problem is that you have to care about the end result.
Well, let's admit it. The selling of spells and doing spells for others and all that has been a big part of the community for a number of years, to the point to where we even have comments about them in our laws.
Yeah, it has been. But you're selling spells to people you're face-to-face. You can actually speak to these people.
What are those laws?
Those laws are... It's basically any person who is selling spells or rituals is a sorcerer and a charlatan.
Okay. And because according to the laws, we are never allowed to take money for
the
spells.
Power. Yes, it's basically saying never allowed to take money for the power.
Right. Now we can barter.
We can barter.
But we can't necessarily take money.
Yes.
So it's more along the lines of, Derry, hey, I need a spell and blah, blah, blah. And I just happen to have this tea on me that I know you really like.
And the first thing I'm going to tell you is thanks for that offer, but have you thought about doing this yourself?
Well, let's admit it. That's not how we start out.
Yeah, we do start out trying to counsel a little bit, trying to see what this person actually needs, because they may not know what they actually need.
So, well, let's put it to you this way, all right? Somebody does come to a spell, to one of us in our tradition. What do you think they're going to get? What do you think this process is going to be like?
The first thing they're going to get is a conversation. They're going to get a conversation about why they think they need this spell.
And to make it even worse, you're going to probably even wind up getting some type of psychic reading
Yes.
in that process, either through tarot cards, runes,
Yes.
or one of these things. Why do we think this part of the process is so important?
Because you need to know how something's going to turn out. You need to know if you're going down the right path.
Right. And you need to know what in the world the person really needs or
Yes.
what it is that they really want.
Yes,
Because a lot of people's communications about what they want lack,
they do.
the quite right wordage or whatever to get them there. So we sort of have to, like you said earlier, hey, I just need, money.
No, you don't. You need something else, definitely. And after that first conversation, you might get told to go home and think about it.
You might be told to go home and meditate.
Yes. Go home and meditate on the problem. Because everybody, we have a knee-jerk reaction to every situation we get in.
Yes.
And we have that initial knee-jerk reaction. What you have to learn to do is not actually react. When your brain is saying, hey, I need to react this way, stop yourself.
I'm going to sit here and say it's okay to feel those feelings
It is.
in the moment, but
You have
acting
to
on
process
them is
them.
not the wisest thing
No, because most of the time, that's when somebody's going to pop up and say, I need this spell for this.
to do. Right.
When you don't.
Right.
You need to sit down and think about it.
Right. This is where you wind up with the phone calls of how in the world do I bless the raccoon penis bone to make my ex never get another.
When in that situation, you don't need your ex to never move on. You need
Oh, you just
something
don't want,
to move on.
No, I'm just saying you just don't want nothing to move down there anymore.
Oh, goodness.
But again, that's when you wind up with things like that happening, where you got the people calling you up going, hey, how in the world can I curse this person because I'm more mad than anything?
Well, the first thing is you need to calm down.
Right. First of all, the idea is to get them to calm down and to realize what in the world may be really going on here.
Because in my lived experience, if somebody's made me mad, I'm either just too emotional about it, or if I continue to be mad about it, they're usually, one of our other laws is usually the gods take the balance.
Yes.
And I don't have to do anything.
It normally, things tend to work out sometimes.
They do. They really do.
Sometimes. All right, so you have people out here, they're selling these spells. And some of these spells they're selling, I'm going to say, might be a little dangerous.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? And some of the prices on these are freaking ridiculous.
Oh, my goodness. There is such craziness out there. I have seen some that are an initiation ritual into vampirism. And they were originally $10,000, but now they're on sale for $5,000.
Right.
And rituals that include working with demons to get revenge, and even one for immortality. And that thing was $20,000 on sale for $10,000. And you had to do the ritual every 3 months.
Now, here's what kills me is you have a problem with this, right?
Yes.
But do you have a problem with going down to the local bookstore, picking up a book with the word written all over it, spell book, for $20?
See, that is one of the things.
I'm splitting hairs here. Don't get me wrong. What's really the difference between this is acceptable to buy a spell book with a bunch of spells in it and me going online and buying a spell?
See, that's the thing. Is there really a difference? because you can get a spell book and have no context as to how that spell is supposed to work, why these ingredients work the way they do, essentially just kind of skipping over the whole witch's pyramid before the spell, not giving you any warnings of side effects of the spell or anything. So,
I mean, there are other things to casting a spell besides place, slot.
Yes, there is.
Slot A into slot B, and
and that's another. I mean, you still get it on both sides. No real learning behind the spell, whether you're buying it online or whether you're buying a book.
But then I hate to be this way. If you've been classically, well, I don't want to say classically, but if you've been trained well enough, don't really need to. You just make up your own spells.
No, yeah. If
needed.
You've been trained well enough, you don't really need a spell book. I mean, you can have a spell book if you need ideas.
Yeah.
But if you've been trained to know that you can research the herbs that do this, that, and the other thing.
Looking up, again, let's
you can look it up for yourself.
Looking up the correspondences for free online is a piece of cake.
And that's another thing, is that most of the information, most of the things that people are charging you for, you can usually find it for free.
Yes.
If you look hard enough, you can usually find it for free.
That's sort of the same argument about the people who do you got to pay for the witch classes online.
Yes, and I've seen that too.
But yet, you can find the information out there for free or just buy books and sort of work your way around it.
And with books, I mean, you can go to the bookstore and look at the spells and go, this isn't for me, and put it down. You can find something that kind of speaks to you.
Well, I mean, the one spell book I know I have on my shelf is this 5,000
encyclopedia. I have the same one.
I mean, I rarely open it up. Some of them are cute.
Me either. Some of them I look at and go, what?
What?
I saw a spell for healing in that book. And if I remember correctly, you're supposed to do, I can't remember the exact thing that you're supposed to do, but you're supposed to put your sickness into like a stone or a stick and throw it into the river.
Yes.
And my thought was, are you not putting your sickness into the river and causing everything in that river?
Well, the idea there, the way that works is that the nature spirits or the nature energy that's there is greater than that little bit of sickness, and it will demolish it.
I would hope so.
All right. There's the thought with stuff like that the water itself is going to cleanse that energy away or neutralize it.
I would hope so, because that was my first thought, and I was like, oh, why would you do this?
Well, putting a dark bean inside of a charm, then placing that charm inside of a jar and then filling it up with salt, sealing it up, and putting it into the water tends to trap things very well.
Yeah, because salt is, you're basically insulating it before you even put it into the water.
Before you put it into the water, and then everything together just sort of traps it there. So again, a type of spell or something, but you're still using nature as sort of a guard.
Another thing I did, another problem I have is energy. How do you, like tarot card readings, and I can tell you your future, and I've on Etsy, you can have a 5-card tarot spread and you'll have it within the hour. And I'm like, how accurate is that when you've never met this person?
Or sat down or felt.
You've never sat down in front of them.
No.
So I performed a little experiment.
Okay.
I bought tarot readings from 4 different people on Etsy. Don't worry, I didn't spend a ton of money. I spent less than $10 just to prove a point.
Yeah.
I asked a specific question, and I asked, will I ever find love? And I asked that specific question because I've been married for almost 20 years.
I was about to say, I already know the answer to that question.
I was like, is somebody gonna have enough intuitiveness to slap these cards down and say, you've already found love?
Why are you asking this?
None of them had that. None of them had that intuitiveness. They all said, oh, you're going to find love, and this is the kind of love you're going to have. Now, I will say, when they were talking about the kind of love you'll have, it does pretty much describe the kind of relationship I do have with my husband. But in the end, they still don't get it right. No. Now, if I had been directly in front of them,
maybe,
would they have gotten it right?
Well, see, but I hate to be this way. Not everyone's good at intuition.
They're not.
Reading. All right. I mean, and learning how to do, I mean, we try to teach y'all intuition reading above everything else. And again, it's difficult because you've been a first for
over a year. Yeah. About a year and a half.
Year and a half. And trust me, I'm sure you're still struggling.
Yes. It's because you have to find the type of, it's divination, basically. You have to kind of find the type of divination that really speaks to you. And I'm still working on that. I'm still working on the kind of divination that really speaks to me. Because when you look at the tarot cards and you see there's 72, and you're like, I've got to learn a meaning behind 72 different cards. What?
I know, it does seem a little daunting.
It does. And another point, TikTok.
Oh, God.
Because we've kind of been, like, all of this stuff I found on Etsy. But TikTok.
There is, before we leave the subject of Etsy, I know something was brought up about that this is for entertainment use only.
And that is the biggie.
I remember this because Lady Keegan was telling me about this because she has a store on Etsy. And basically what it amounts to is people were buying spells and of course they weren't working.
At the very bottom, it always says, for entertainment purposes only.
That's where they had to put that as a loophole. That way they get less complaints and won't
Yes, and I can understand the legal part of that.
Yeah.
But when you really look at it, it's making the whole craft a joke.
Well, it's making us seem like con artists.
Yes, like con artists. Magic isn't something to be taken seriously when it very much is.
And especially when you put money in there.
Yes.
It begins to seem a little trivial and stuff like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sure witches back in the day when they had to, Lady Santana and stuff, where they had to make a living. Yes, made charms and stuff like that and sold them charms to onlookers and basically tourist people, type people. That's all they were ever done. It was never done as a, ooh, got you. It was just a trinket.
Yeah.
Selling. So I don't think we felt bad about that because we knew what we were doing. They knew what they were buying.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody that came to any of the witch shops back in the day really believed that if they just bought a voodoo doll that they had power.
No, just, I don't know, really anything about voodoo, but yeah, I'm sure there's quite a lot of learning behind how a voodoo doll actually works. But as far as TikTok goes, is it kind of a loophole in the law? Because you can make a video showing a spell and how to do it. You're not charging anybody, but you still make money off the views.
Let's say that sort of makes me think it's more like what you would see in the books. Either you go and, because you have the option, I can go to a bookstore and buy a book of spells. And I don't feel bad about it because, again, I'm more likely in most of these books, I'm going to get a little bit of a lesson.
You are.
All right. Now, if I'm too stupid and skip it myself, that's my fault. Unlike when I'm sitting down with with a witch and they're supposed to be making a spell and they're not telling me about the witch's pyramid and all this other stuff, or not doing a counsel. They're just going, here's your spell. Give me my $5. Go. And it's going to cost you $10 to get all the supplies from me that you need too.
Yeah, $10, but how much of that supply is really going toward that spell?
Well, I hate to be this way. How many of these people selling moon water, is it actually moon water?
Who knows?
I mean, to be quite honest with you, I mean, that's kind of like the spring water. How do you know it's spring water?
And don't even get me started on the moon water, because it's so easy to set a jar out in your backyard and just pick it up before the sun hits it. It's so easy. I mean, you can do it for free.
I know. But yeah, people are selling this moon water at...
They do. Everywhere. You can buy it online. You can buy it in some of the witch stores. I don't see it in every store I go in.
Right.
which is okay. Like most people know, you shouldn't be buying moon water. I feel like that's something that most people know is that you shouldn't be buying moon water.
Well, I mean, there's always that lazy person that thinks, well, if I just get it from somebody else.
Yes, but how lazy do you have to be to not set a jar out in your yard?
You're asking me, really? Look, it's bad out there with the way they sell spells and
it
do
is.
This stuff.
It really is.
And trust me, there are a ton out there that are, yes, they're telling you what they want you to hear. I see it on YouTube with the podcast where every week they're talking about a new spell or something else.
Yes, this is a cure. This is a fix-all. Oh, and that's another thing is marketing magic is a fix-all. Magic does not. You don't need magic to fix everything in your life. You don't.
It's a conversation and subject we've kept on trying to approach on the podcast is because you have to start realizing when reality is starting to be reality and when your perception because unfortunately in the pagan community, we have this thing that because we perceive reality, we make it. And because we make reality as we think of it, that we can change the world to whatever we want.
Yes, but you don't necessarily need magic to change that world to whatever you want.
It don't work. It's bull. At some point, the real world does insert itself. There is no spell that's going to suddenly change a tree into an actual person.
No.
There's no spell that's suddenly going to make the earth start to spin backwards.
Nope.
All right, so that's part of where in the world this is. Where does magic end and when does reality kick in? When does magic don't work? When?
I think that would be something that the line is different for everybody. I would think.
So I don't think so. I think the line is that it's not the fact that we create reality. It's that we each perceive reality slightly different.
Yeah, we do.
Reality is still the exact same. It doesn't change for any of us. It's just our perception of it or our understanding of it that changes. All right? The only things where our willpower starts to, I believe, starts to actually have real effect over our lives is internally. That we're twisting ourselves to fit into those shapes, to go through those, to get what we need.
Yeah.
All right? It is better to cast the spell for knowledge and wisdom on how to make money than it would be just to do a spell for money.
Yes.
All right?
Because that knowledge is going to serve you for the rest of your life. That spell might get you $10 next week.
Again, it's the concept. Give a man a fish for a day, he'll eat for a day. You teach him the fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
Yep.
Again, this is still the same concept that we're talking about here is if you learn how to do this stuff and you really do understand it, you can start manipulating this to your advantage.
Yes.
All right? It's that piece of a cake. You just trick yourself into behaving certain ways.
But really, the whole thing is there's no substitute for learning. That's basically all it is. There's no substitute for learning. I think paying for spells online is just a really quick fix. And
yeah,
most of the time quick fixes, you're like, let's say something worked, but 1 week later, you're back at your starting point. You're going to have to just keep fixing it.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Again, until you get to the root of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my slight problem with Reiki. Reiki Reiki re-straightens out the energy, but if you don't work on the root of the problem, it's just going to knot right back up.
Yes, it is.
So there's the solution to this. This is where in the world where we're trained people to counsel more to try to get people to realize what they need versus what they actually want.
Yes. A lot of times it's people thinking that, oh, these are witches. They cast all the time. We don't, actually.
No. No, I'm trying my best to think of the last spell I cast. I believe it was over a year ago.
Like, we don't, because most of the time We don't really need to.
Okay, now, taking money and stuff off the table, right? What about just casting spells for someone who actually has a need? Do you have a problem with that?
I do not, because in that case...
And let me give an example. Like a girlfriend who has the ex that really doesn't want to leave them alone. And there's a little nervousness there and stuff. And there's something there you can work with.
Yes, there is. But the first thing I'm going to do is really talk to this person.
Yes.
And then if I figure out that there is something I can do to help them, I'm going to say, well, I am going to help you, but not in the way that you wanted me to initially, and here's why.
Well, now, first of all, I would look at this person. Well, first of all, here's what we're going to do. If they're really bothering you that much, let's go to the police department and see if we can file a
restraining order or a police report of some kind.
Now, I'm not saying we won't cast the spell on top.
Yeah.
To give it a little extra.
But we have to, I would say, in certain situations, you have to deal with the mundane first.
Yes. I mean, casting a spell to protect your house from thieves are great, but if you don't lock your doors... But at the
same time, a camera system and, locking your doors...
help out a lot.
They work just fine.
In conjunction with. And see, that's where I see a lot of people getting a problem with is that they don't understand that magic works as a conjunction with other things.
It does. It's not... I kind of compare their thinking to the Christians who are, I can't remember what they're called, but they just rely completely on faith healing.
Right.
No medical interventions whatsoever. Right. They have this thought that God is magically going to come down from heaven and touch their child.
They're Christian Science.
Yes.
Yes. They no medications, no nothing.
Yes. To me, that's what that kind of feels like. Is if pagans expecting magic to solve all their problems. When it's not.
Where it doesn't always work.
No.
I'm not going to sit there and say people haven't been healed through magic or through faith,
but it's not the only thing.
It's not the only thing there. There's other factors.
It's like, yes, you helped the healing process along, but so did that antibiotic.
Right. So, or that slight cancer treatment or whatever. Most of the spells actually do work in conjunction with something else going on.
And a lot of times when you're purchasing spells online or you're copying a spell you saw on TikTok, you're not realizing that. You're not realizing it's supposed to work in conjunction with something else.
No, we've pretty much trashed the people that sell spells like this, all right?
Well, I don't want to entirely trash them. I did see a little bit of, I'm just going to call it a little bit of glimmer of hope, because I did see some who were offering consultations before they would sell you a spell.
Okay.
I did see some of that. And I did see 95% of what was being sold online was a digital download, and you had to do it yourself.
All right.
So a lot of people are realizing that if somebody else does the spell for you, it's really not going to work.
Well, let's explain how in the world we pretty much train people that they expect, okay? Somebody comes to my house, they want a spell. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do some type of reading with them. We're going to do some counseling. And then I might do a spell for them. All right?
Emphasis on might.
Might. All right? And if I do that, I'm going to send them out and I'm going to tell them to get double of whatever items they need for the spell. They're going to come back. I'm going to do the spell. The other half of that items I'm going to keep for my charms to sell later. Bartering. Go figure. Then that spell, we both know right now that spell's probably going to land flat or nothing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Expectations. So we go ahead and set it up and tell them, say, now when this gets done in a couple of weeks, come back and see us.
In a couple of weeks.
They come back.
Hey, nothing's happening.
So we sit down, we do another reading, we have another conversation with them. Then we might ask them to go out and get the stuff for another spell.
With the spell slightly altered.
With the spell slightly altered where they help us do the spell. Then when that sort of works or not works exactly the way they want to, it's going to be the third time that they show up. We're going to have this conversation with them where you're going to give them the spell, tell them what they need to go out and do for the spell, and they're going to do it without us.
And I'm going to imagine that most of the time the spell is probably not the same as the first one.
Nope.
Because now you've gotten down to the root of what they actually need.
And we've really created a real spell for them to go out and do. And we've had time to sort of train them and hype them up.
Yeah.
To have that energy to go out and do
Like
this.
just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But the point of this pattern is the chance to counsel these people 3 or 4 times.
Yes. Because that's really what it is the chance to counsel. And that's really what you're missing if you're buying spells online or paying people to do spells for you. That's really what you're missing. Is a lot of magic is found within yourself.
Yes.
And you're not really looking inward. You're just looking for the quick fix. The magic is in you.
Exactly. I mean, there is a style of spell that, we eventually teach to where you do nothing but sit down and meditate.
Yeah.
To cast the spells. So it's just pure energy work.
Yes. And that is what is missing. That is what is missing.
Mm-hmm. Now, like I said, we've pretty much trashed the people that sell this. What about the people buying? I mean, do we have sympathy for them? Or are they just
would
stupid?
have a little bit of sympathy.
I mean,
because desperate people do desperate things.
Okay.
Again, they're off the cuff thinking, I need this, I need this, I need this.
Versus that woman who has to go get a card reading every week or every other week just because.
And I don't really feel sorry for the woman who's getting a card reading every other week just because. Because at some point,
I mean, these are also the same people that are casting spell like every other day for something.
Because at some point, like, you have to stop. Like, why are you letting somebody else try to tell you how to live your life? Go live your life. Nobody else. The cards don't need to dictate your entire life.
No, but some people get into those patterns. Some people...
They do.
Some people rely on their faith a little too much.
They do. It's like having faith in the outside power. They, again, have yet to realize that power's in you. It's not out there.
No. It's somewhere deep inside of you. And it comes from your feelings.
Yes.
All right? If you don't feel, you're really not going to do very good at casting a spell.
No. And really, a person who needs to go get card readings that often, you have to wonder how shut off they are from themselves.
Well, does this not show how much self-doubt they have?
Yeah, they do.
I mean, because willpower and being very confident in oneself in craft is a very important key.
It is. You have to really know. It's basically really knowing yourself.
Yes.
It's being somebody who needs a card reading is so very disconnected from themselves. And when you're that disconnected from yourself, you're not going to trust yourself.
No. No, you're always going to doubt yourself. You're always going to sort of think or always question, did I make the right choice? Did I not?
Yeah.
And then you get too wrapped up in it to see where in the world you're going.
And I've seen people like that. I've seen people like just, you ask them how they feel about something and they can't really answer you. And then you ask them again and they still can't answer you. And I just think, gosh, this person is really disconnected from themselves.
There's a lot of people like that. I think that's a different subject.
Yeah.
That's a different topic, but I know and I want to cover that one, but not right now. Anything else about selling spells you'd like to?
Not really. Like I said, I think at some point we may get to a balance where people are realizing, hey, maybe I need something different. Maybe. It's like when I first came to Temple, I was reading all these books, but I knew there was something missing. I think eventually all these people who were buying these spells all the time, maybe they'll realize that something is missing.
Maybe, but
who knows?
I'm sorry. This is a problem that has been going on
forever,
and it's not anything that's going to be solved overnight.
Yeah.
All right. People are going to buy spells. And again, we can't stop people.
No, you can't.
All right, I can't stop people from selling. There's no grand witch council to. So again, all we can do is sit here and state what in the world our viewpoint is. Why, knowing that there are other people out there. I'm going to sell a spell anyway. All right.
I mean, that's on you. You're the one who has to pay that balance.
I'm just saying. So.
But on the other hand, I mean, you have all of these Wiccan shops out here selling the ingredients for spells, selling candles, selling this, that, and the other.
Well, I've seen them sell the spell in a box, where it's a box and it's a pre-made spell with everything in there.
But the thing is, you still have to pick that up off the shelf and go talk to and go say, hey, I want to buy this.
Right.
But you have the chance to get counseled on that spell.
Maybe.
I don't really have so much of a problem with that because not everybody can take herbs, for instance. Not everybody has the time to grow their own herbs.
No.
So it's convenient.
It's convenient.
And selling that stuff online, not everybody has the ability to get out and go to a store and buy that stuff. So I look at it as it's a blessing and a curse.
At the same time? Yeah.
So there is a good side to all of this being online, but then there's the bad side.
Then get a little shady there. I'm sorry. Human nature inserts itself, and people are always going to try to push the limits of everything.
And there will always be people who abuse their power.
Always. Again, it's kind of like those people who go, oh, here, I'm going to do this $50,000 spell, but it's on sale for just $10. Better do it now.
It's on sale for just $10, and I'm only offering it one time this year. Like the immortality spell. It's going to be the only one available for this year.
For this year.
$20,000 for immortality. Never mind the fact that our bodies are made to expire.
Not if you inject them with coffee.
You know what? Sounds like a good idea.
It does.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, a maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning